The harsh October rain pounded against the windows of Anna's tiny apartment as she gently rocked her 3-month-old son, Ethan, to sleep. The baby was wrapped in the only clean blanket she had left, a soft cotton swaddle that had once belonged to her own mother. Anna's eyes fixed on the gold wedding ring gleaming on her finger, the last valuable possession she owned, and the final remnant of a life that had crumbled beneath her feet. Tomorrow she would have to sell it to buy formula for her son. The irony wasn't lost on Anna that the ring, once a symbol of eternal love, would now be sacrificed for her child's survival. 6 carats of diamonds set in platinum, a ring worth more than she'd make in a year at her previous marketing job. A job she'd lost when the pregnancy complications forced her on extended bed rest. The same complications that had revealed her husband's true character. Just a little longer, sweetheart. The apartment was cold, the heating had been turned down to save on bills, and the chill seemed to seep into her very bones. At 28, Anna James had never imagined her life would come to this. A single mother, nearly broke, with disconnection notices piling up on her kitchen counter. Her phone buzzed with a notification. The jewelry buyer had confirmed their appointment for tomorrow morning. Anna had researched extensively, finding a high-end buyer who specialized in luxury pieces, hoping to get enough money to last through winter. The message confirmed the meeting at Harrington Jewelers on 5th Avenue at 10 a.m. sharp. She'd have to take 2 buses to get there, but the reviews suggested they offered fair prices. Ethan finally drifted to sleep, his breathing soft and regular against her chest. Anna gently placed him in the second-hand crib her neighbor had given her when she'd moved into the building 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks since she'd been forced to leave the penthouse apartment she'd shared with Richard. 3 weeks of scrambling to build a life from nothing while caring for a newborn. She twisted the ring on her finger, remembering the day Richard had proposed. He'd been different then, or perhaps she simply hadn't seen who he truly was. The CEO of Horizon Technologies, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in Boston, Richard Chun, had swept her off her feet with his charm and ambition. When they met at a corporate event where she was handling the marketing, their whirlwind romance had culminated in a lavish wedding just 14 months ago. Then came the pregnancy announcement, the complications, and Richard's increasingly frequent business trips. The final blow had come when Anna discovered the text from his assistant Veronica, the same assistant who was now splashed across social media as Richard's new girlfriend. "You've become a liability. This isn't what I signed up for." The divorce papers had arrived a week later, along with a settlement offer that would have been insulting if it weren't so desperately needed. Anna had been too sick to fight, too focused on keeping her unborn child safe. She'd signed, taking only what was legally hers, which wasn't much, thanks to the prenuptial agreement she'd naively signed. Now staring at the ceiling of her studio apartment, Anna calculated how long the ring money would last. Formula, diapers, rent, utilities. If she was frugal, maybe 3 months. Enough time to find some kind of work-from-home job she could manage. While caring for Ethan, the rain intensified, drumming against the windows like angry fingers. A leak had started in the corner of the ceiling, water dripping steadily into a cooking pot she'd placed there earlier. The landlord had promised to fix it, but Anna wasn't hopeful. In this part of town, promises didn't mean much. She turned to her phone, scrolling through job listings for the 100th time. Remote customer service, data entry, content writing. She applied to everything, regardless of the pay. Something had to come through. She had a marketing degree and 6 years of experience before Horizon Technologies. Before Richard, a text message illuminated her screen. It was from Melissa, her former colleague and one of the few friends who hadn't disappeared when Anna's life imploded. "How are you holding up? Need anything?" Anna's fingers hovered over the keyboard, pride warred with necessity. Melissa had already done so much, bringing groceries and helping Anna move into this apartment. Asking for more felt impossible. We're okay, selling the ring tomorrow. Should help us get through winter. Melissa's response was immediate. Let me come with you. Don't want you taking those buses alone with Ethan in this weather. Relief flooded through Anna. Are you sure? It's across town, absolutely. I'll pick you up at 9. And Anna? Things will get better. Anna set down her phone, her eyes drawn again to the wedding ring. In the dim light of the apartment, the diamonds caught what little illumination there was, fracturing it into tiny rainbows against the wall. So beautiful, yet in the end, as empty as the promises that had come with it. Morning came with weak sunlight struggling through cloud-covered skies. The rain had stopped, but the air remained heavy with moisture as Anna prepared for the day. Bathing Ethan in the shallow sink, she carefully dressed him in one of the few clean outfits he had. Left. The laundromat down the street charged $5 per load, an expense she couldn't justify until after selling the ring. Melissa arrived precisely at 9, her sensible sedan a welcome sight outside the apartment building. Anna secured Ethan. In the car seat Melissa had thoughtfully installed, then slid into the passenger seat, clutching her purse where she'd safely tucked the ring box. Thanks for doing this. I wasn't looking forward to navigating public transit with all of Ethan's things. Melissa glanced at her with concern. How are you really doing, Anna? And don't give me the I'm fine routine. Anna sighed, watching the neighborhoods change as they drove toward the wealthier part of the city. Surviving. One day at a time. The settlement money is almost gone. This ring is my last resource. Have you considered fighting for more? Richard's worth millions. The prenup shouldn't hold up considering the circumstances. I don't have the energy or money for a legal battle. And I don't want anything from him beyond what Ethan deserves. I just need to get back on my feet. Melissa frowned but didn't push further. Well, Harrington's has a good reputation. They should give you a fair price. The jewelry store was located in a gleaming high-rise in the financial district. The stark contrast between this world and Anna's current reality wasn't lost on her as they parked in the underground garage. Just a year ago, she would have belonged here, dressed in designer clothes, her future secure. Now she felt like an imposter in her faded jeans and second-hand coat, clutching her baby close. The elevator ascended smoothly to the 14th floor, where Harrington Jewelers occupied a corner suite. The reception area was all sleek marble and soft lighting, designed to make precious gems look their most brilliant. A poised woman behind the desk greeted them with a professional smile. Good morning. Do you have an appointment? Yes, Anna James, 10 a.m. with Mr. Harrington. The receptionist checked her computer. Of course, Ms. James. Mr. Harrington is finishing up with another client. Please make yourselves comfortable. Can I offer you coffee or water? Anna requested water while Melissa opted for coffee. They settled into plush leather chairs, Ethan sleeping peacefully in his carrier. The walls were lined with glass cases displaying exquisite jewelry pieces, each one probably worth more than Anna's entire settlement. Miss James, Mr. Harrington will see you now. His office is through those doors. Anna handed Ethan's carrier to Melissa. Would you mind watching him? This shouldn't take long. Of course, take your time. With a deep breath, Anna straightened her shoulders and walked toward the office doors. This was business, she reminded herself. A simple transaction. She would not allow emotions to cloud her judgment or reveal her desperation. The ring was just an object, and she needed the money it would bring. She knocked once on the polished wood door before entering. Mr. Harrington, thank you for seeing me today. I'm interested in selling my... The words died in her throat as the man behind the desk looked up. It wasn't Mr. Harrington at all. Sitting there, his expression shifting from professional interest to shock, was Richard Chen, her ex-husband. The father of her child, the man who had discarded her when she needed him most. Anna, Richard stood, his tall frame as impeccably dressed as ever in a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "What are you doing here?" Anna's mind raced to make sense of the situation. "I had an appointment with Mr. Harrington to sell a piece of jewelry." Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. "Gerald Harrington is an old friend. He's out of town this week. I'm helping him evaluate some pieces for his collection." His gaze dropped to her left hand, which had automatically closed into a fist. "You're selling your ring." It wasn't a question. Anna felt heat rise to her cheeks, not embarrassment, but anger. Of all the jewelry stores in Boston, she had to walk into the one where Richard was playing at being an appraiser. "Yes," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I need the money." Something flickered across Richard's face, surprise, perhaps, or guilt. But it was gone so quickly, Anna thought she might have imagined it. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit down. Let me see it." Every instinct told Anna to walk out, to find another buyer, to avoid any further entanglement with this man. But practical considerations won out. Harrington's offered the best prices, and she had already spent precious gas money getting here. With deliberate movements, she sat down and removed the ring from its box, placing it on the desk between them. Richard picked it up, examining it with an expert's eye. The 6-carat diamond caught the light, sending prisms dancing across his face. Anna remembered the day he'd slipped it onto her finger, promising forever. What a fool she'd been. "This is in excellent condition," he said, his tone businesslike. "Platinum setting, VS1 clarity, excellent cut. 6 carats total weight including the surrounding stones." "I know what it is," Anna replied coldly. "I just need to know what you'll pay for it." Richard set the ring down, his eyes finally meeting hers fully. "Why are you selling it, Anna?" "The settlement should have been enough to—" "The settlement barely covered my medical bills," she interrupted, her voice low but intense. "Do you have any idea how expensive pregnancy complications can be, even with insurance?" His expression remained impassive, but his fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the ring. "I was told you were provided for." "By whom? Your lawyers? Or Veronica?" Anna couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. "I'm not here to discuss our past, Richard. I'm here for a business transaction. If you can't help me, I'll find someone who can." She reached for the ring, but Richard moved it slightly out of her reach. "Wait," he said, and for the first time, a crack appeared in his composed facade. How are you managing otherwise?" Anna's laugh held no humor. "Managing? I'm living in a studio apartment with a leaking ceiling. I'm selling my wedding ring to buy formula for our son. I'd say I'm barely surviving, not managing." "Our son?" Richard's voice had gone very quiet. "You had the baby?" Now it was Anna's turn to be shocked. "You didn't know? How could you not know?" "The divorce papers listed me as pregnant. The lawyers handled everything. They said there were complications that you had." He didn't finish the sentence, but Anna understood the implication. "That I lost the baby?" Anger surged through her veins. "Is that what they told you? Or what you wanted to believe so? You could move on with Veronica without complications?" Richard's face had gone pale. "Anna, I swear I didn't know. The last update I received from the lawyers was that you had been hospitalized with severe complications," Veronica said. "Of course she did," Anna cut in, standing abruptly. "Your precious assistant has been manipulating you from the beginning. But that doesn't excuse you. You never once called to check on me yourself. Not once, Richard." His composure completely shattered now. Richard stood as well. "Where is he? Our son, is he here?" "He's with my friend in the waiting area. His name is Ethan, not that you ever asked. He's 3 months old, and he has your eyes." Anna held out her hand. "Now, are you going to make me an offer for this ring, or should I take my business elsewhere?" Richard stared at her outstretched hand, then down at the ring glittering on his desk. When he looked up again, something had changed in his expression. "I'll give you 50,000 for it." Anna blinked in surprise. The ring was worth perhaps 30,000 at most in the resale market. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's worth more," he said simply. "It's not worth 50,000, and you know it." Richard picked up the ring, turning it over in his fingers. "It was worth that to me when I bought it, when I thought it meant something." He looked up at her, his dark eyes unreadable. "Take the money, Anna." Every fiber of her being wanted to refuse, to reject this unexpected and suspicious generosity. But the reality of her situation, the empty refrigerator, the past due notices, Ethan's growing needs, forced her to reconsider. 50,000 would give her months, not weeks, to rebuild her life. "Fine," she said at last. "But this changes nothing between us." Richard nodded once, reaching for his checkbook. "I'd like to see him, Ethan." Anna hesitated. She had never planned on keeping Ethan from his father. Richard's apparent disinterest had made the point moot until now. But learning that he might not have known about their son's birth complicated things. "After I have the check," she said finally. "And understand this, if you want to be part of his life, it has to be for real. No disappearing acts, no delegating to assistants or nannies. He deserves better than that." Richard wrote the check in silence, his handwriting as precise and controlled as everything else about him. When he handed it to Anna, their fingers brushed briefly, sending an unwelcome jolt of familiarity through her. "Thank you," she said formally, tucking the check into her purse. "Wait here, I'll bring him in." As Anna walked back to the waiting area, her mind raced with confusion. Nothing about this encounter had gone as expected. Richard's apparent shock at learning about Ethan seemed genuine, which meant either he was an exceptional actor or someone had deliberately kept him in the dark. Melissa looked up as Anna approached. "How did it go? Did you get a good price?" "It's complicated," Anna replied, glancing down at Ethan, who had awakened and was gazing around with curious eyes. "The buyer is Richard." Melissa's jaw dropped. "Richard? You're Richard? How is that possible?" "He's filling in for the owner, who's a friend of his." Anna bent to lift Ethan from his carrier. "He's offered 50,000 for the ring." "That's way above market value," Melissa said, her suspicion evident. "What's his angle?" "I don't know yet," Anna admitted. "But he says he didn't know about Ethan, that someone told him I lost the baby." She held her son close, drawing strength from his solid warmth. "He wants to meet him." Melissa's protective instincts flared. "Are you sure that's a good idea? After everything he put you through?" "I'm not sure of anything right now," Anna said honestly. "But Ethan deserves to know. His father and Richard deserves a chance to explain, if he can." She straightened her shoulders. "Will you wait here? This shouldn't take long." With Ethan securely in her arms, Anna returned to Richard's temporary office. She paused at the door, watching unobserved for a moment as Richard stood by the window, the ring still in his hand, his expression troubled and unfamiliar, vulnerable in a way she had rarely seen during their marriage. She knocked lightly, and he turned. The moment his eyes fell on Ethan, something profound shifted in his expression. Recognition, wonder, and something that looked remarkably like regret passed across his features in rapid succession. "Anna," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "he's perfect." She entered the room fully, allowing the door to close behind her. "This is Ethan James Chun, born July 15th at Massachusetts General after 36 hours of labor. 7 pounds 4 ounces. Richard approached slowly, as if afraid they might disappear if he moved too quickly. "He has my mother's chin," he observed, his voice thick with emotion. "And my eyes." "Yes," Anna acknowledged, "he does." "May I?" Richard held out his hands tentatively. After a moment's hesitation, Anna carefully transferred Ethan to his father's arms, showing him how to support the baby's head. Richard held his son with awkward gentleness, his usual confidence replaced by an almost reverent uncertainty. Ethan gazed up at this new face, his tiny features serious as if evaluating this stranger who shared his blood. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled a gummy, drooling grin that transformed his little face. Richard's composure broke entirely. "I didn't." "No," he said, his voice cracking. "Anna, you have to believe me. I would never have what?" Anna asked, her own emotions threatening to overflow. "Never have left if you'd known? Never have moved on with Veronica? Never have dismissed me as a liability?" "All of it," he admitted, still gazing at his son. "The company was in crisis. The Japanese deal was falling through. I was working 20-hour days, and when you were hospitalized..." He shook his head. "I delegated everything to the lawyers, to Veronica. It was the biggest mistake of my life." Anna wanted to hold on to her anger, to reject this explanation as too little, too late. But seeing Richard hold their son, witnessing the genuine emotion in his eyes, made it difficult to maintain her walls. "That doesn't excuse everything," she said quietly. "You could have called. You could have checked on me yourself." "You're right," Richard agreed, gently swaying as Ethan began to fuss. "I was a coward. When Veronica told me you'd lost the baby and wanted a clean break, it was easier to believe her than to face what I'd done." "Veronica told you I lost the baby?" Anna felt a cold fury building. "When?" "Shortly after you were hospitalized. She said she'd spoken to your doctors." Richard looked up, realization dawning. "She lied to me. And you believed her without verification." Anna took Ethan back as he began to cry in earnest. "That's the problem, Richard. Here's the script cleaned up for CapCut TTS. You trusted everyone but me, your assistant, your lawyers, everyone but your wife." Richard ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, leaving it uncharacteristically disheveled. "You're right. I have. No excuse." He watched as Anna soothed Ethan with practiced ease. "You're an amazing mother. I didn't have a choice. He needed me to be." A heavy silence fell between them, filled only by Ethan's diminishing whimpers. Richard picked up the check he'd written, looking at it thoughtfully. "This isn't enough." "Not nearly enough," Anna stiffened. "I'm not asking for more, Richard. This will help us get by until I can find work." "That's not what I meant." He set the check down and reached for his phone. "Gerald owes me a favor. He has a position opening in his marketing department next month. The pay is excellent, and they have an on-site daycare for employees. I don't need your charity or your connections. I can find my own job." Richard looked at her directly. "It's not charity. It's an opportunity you deserve based on your qualifications. Gerald has been trying to poach you from Horizon since before. We even met. He was disappointed when you became unavailable." Anna remembered meeting Gerald Harrington at a charity gala years ago, discussing marketing strategies for luxury brands. He had indeed expressed interest in her ideas. "I'll consider it, but only if it's a legitimate offer based on merit." Richard nodded, then hesitated before speaking again. "There's something else. The penthouse, our penthouse, it's sitting empty. I moved into a hotel after everything. It makes no sense for you and Ethan to be in a leaking apartment when there's a perfectly good home available." Anna laughed incredulously. "You expect me to move back into our marital home? With what memories, Richard? With what security? I'm not suggesting we reconcile, though I..." He stopped himself. "The penthouse is legally half yours anyway. The prenup only covered assets before the marriage, not what we purchased together. The lawyers should have told you that." Anna's mind spun with this new information. "They said everything belonged to you or Horizon Technologies." Richard's expression darkened. "That's not true. The penthouse was purchased in both our names as a gift from me to you. It's in the deed." He set his phone down, his decision apparently made. "I'll have my new lawyer contact you tomorrow with the paperwork. The penthouse is yours, Anna. You and Ethan should be there, not in some dangerous neighborhood with a leaking ceiling. The generosity was so unexpected, so contrary to everything that had happened over the past months, that Anna found herself speechless. Part of her wanted to refuse on principle, to reject anything from the man who had abandoned her. But Ethan deserved better than her pride could provide. Why are you doing this? Why now? Richard looked at his son, then back at Anna. Because I've been a fool. Because in pursuing success, I lost sight of what really matters. Because seeing you again, meeting our son. He shook his head, words failing him. This doesn't fix what happened. I know. Nothing can erase the past few months. But maybe we can build something better for Ethan's future. He hesitated, then added softly, and maybe, in time, you might consider allowing me to be part of that future too, not as your husband, but as Ethan's father, as someone who wants to make amends. Anna looked down at her son, who had fallen asleep against her chest, peaceful and unaware of the life-altering conversation happening around him. Then she looked at the ring still resting on the desk, the symbol of promises broken, now potentially becoming the catalyst for new beginnings, one day at a time. That's all I can offer right now. Richard nodded, understanding in his eyes. One day at a time. Starting today. As Anna left the office with Ethan, the check secure in her purse and the unexpected weight of the ring no longer on her finger, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not for reconciliation, too much had been broken for that, but for a future where her son would have what he deserved, where perhaps she too might rebuild what had been shattered. Outside in the waiting area, Melissa looked up expectantly. Well, how did it go? Anna glanced back at the closed office door, then down at her sleeping son. It's complicated. But I think, maybe, things are about to change for the better. What neither Anna nor Richard could know as they parted ways that morning was that this unexpected encounter, prompted by a wedding ring and a desperate need, would set in motion events that would transform not only their lives, but the lives of those around them. And it had begun with a simple appointment to sell a ring, a symbol that had finally fulfilled its purpose, though not in the way either of them could have imagined. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Melissa's car as they drove away from Harrington Jewelers, casting golden patterns across Anna's face. The check for $50,000 felt impossibly heavy in her purse, its presence both a relief and a complication she hadn't anticipated. I still can't believe what just happened. Richard didn't know about Ethan, and now he's giving you the penthouse? Anna stared out the window, watching as they passed through the financial district where she had once belonged. Men and women in tailored suits hurried along the sidewalks, their lives untouched by the kind of desperation that had driven her to sell her wedding ring. I don't know what to believe anymore. Richard seemed genuinely shocked when he saw Ethan. But how could he not have known? The divorce papers clearly stated I was pregnant. People see what they want to see. And from what you've told me about Veronica, she had every reason to keep Richard in the dark. The mention of Richard's assistant-turned-girlfriend sent a fresh wave of anger through Anna. She told him I lost the baby. She deliberately kept him from knowing his own son. The question is, what are you going to do now? Are you going to take the penthouse? The job offer? Anna looked back at Ethan, still sleeping peacefully in his car seat. What choice did she really have? Her studio apartment was barely habitable, and good jobs for single mothers were scarce. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford with a child depending on her. I think I have to. For Ethan's sake, if nothing else. And Richard? Will you let him be part of Ethan's life? Anna sighed, the question weighing heavily on her. He's Ethan's father. Whatever happened between us, Ethan deserves to know him. She paused, watching the city skyline recede as they headed toward her neighborhood. But I don't trust him, Mel. Not after everything. Trust is to be earned. Just be careful. Men like Richard Chun don't change overnight. The rest of the drive passed in contemplative silence. Anna's mind raced with possibilities and fears, plans and doubts. By the time they reached her apartment building, she had made a decision. "Would you mind watching Ethan for an hour or two? There's something I need to do." Melissa agreed without hesitation, settling onto Anna's worn sofa with Ethan, while Anna changed into the most professional outfit she still owned, a simple black dress and blazer that had survived the purge of her former life. She transferred some of the cash she kept hidden for emergencies into her wallet and headed back out. 45 minutes and 2 bus transfers later, Anna stood outside the gleaming headquarters of Horizon Technologies in Cambridge. The 20-story glass tower reflected the clouds drifting overhead, a monument to Richard's ambition and success. Anna had once been proud to be associated with this place, had believed in the vision Richard had sold to investors and employees alike. Now standing on the sidewalk looking up, she felt nothing but resolve. The security guard at the front desk recognized her immediately. "Mrs. Chun, it's been months. How are you?" Anna forced a smile, ignoring the incorrect use of her former married name. "Hello, Hora. I'm well, thank you. Is Veronica in today?" "Miss Patterson?" "Yes, she's upstairs with Mr. Chun. Do you want me to call up?" "No need. I'll surprise them." Hora hesitated only briefly before handing her a visitor's badge. His loyalty to Richard was tempered by genuine affection for Anna, who had always treated the staff with respect, unlike Veronica, whose demanding nature was legendary among the building's employees. The elevator ride to the executive floor gave Anna time to steady her nerves. She wasn't here for a confrontation with Richard, though she half expected to find him here despite their recent meeting. No, her business was with Veronica Patterson, the woman who had systematically dismantled her marriage and kept a father from knowing his son. The executive reception area was exactly as Anna remembered it, minimalist, expensive, designed to impress potential investors and intimidate everyone else. The receptionist, a new hire Anna didn't recognize, looked up with a professional smile that faltered slightly at Anna's direct approach. "I'm here to see Veronica Patterson," the young woman asked, clearly uncertain how to handle this confident visitor. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but you want to see me." "Tell her Anna Chun is here." The receptionist made a quick call, her eyes widening at whatever was said on the other end. "Miss Patterson will see you in the small conference room. She'll be with you shortly." Anna thanked her and entered the indicated room, a space she knew well from countless meetings during her time as Richard's wife. She chose a seat facing the door and waited, her back straight, her expression carefully composed. Veronica Patterson swept in 5 minutes later, her tall frame accentuated by a pencil skirt and silk blouse that probably cost more than a month's rent for Anna's apartment. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, her makeup flawless. She stopped short at the sight of Anna, genuine surprise breaking through her professional mask. "Anna, this is unexpected. Richard isn't here. He's taking the day off." "I know where Richard is. I just saw him at Harrington Jewelers. I'm here to see you." Wariness crept into Veronica's expression as she closed the door behind her. What could we possibly have to discuss? "My son, Richard's son. The one you told him had died." The color drained from Veronica's perfectly made-up face. She reached for the back of a chair to steady herself. "I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Richard told me everything. How you said you'd spoken to my doctors. How you told him I'd lost the baby and wanted a clean break." Veronica's composure slipped further. "You were supposed to be at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center. How did you end up at Mass General?" The implication of those words that Veronica had checked the wrong hospital, that her lie had been discovered through simple geography, was staggering. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. "You actually tried to verify your lie. You called St. Elizabeth's to make sure there was no record of a live birth. But my doctor transferred me to Mass General for emergency care." Veronica's face hardened. You don't understand. Richard was falling apart when you were hospitalized. The company was on the verge of collapse. The Japanese investors were pulling out. The board was threatening to remove him. He couldn't handle your complications on top of everything else, so you decided for him. You lied to a man about his own child. You kept a father from his son. I protected him. I did what was necessary to save everything he'd built. You were dragging him down with your neediness, your complications. Horizon Technologies would have failed. Anna stared at the woman before her, seeing clearly for the first time the obsession that masqueraded as devotion. You're in love with him. This wasn't just about the company. You wanted him for yourself. Veronica's laugh was harsh. Don't be so melodramatic. Richard and I make sense together. We want the same things. We have the same drive. You were just a distraction, a pretty face that caught his attention for a while. The words were meant to wound, but Anna found they held no power over her. And yet, when he learned about Ethan today, he immediately offered me the penthouse and a job at Harrington's. Interesting reaction for a man who supposedly didn't want a family. Uncertainty flickered across Veronica's features. What are you talking about? Richard knows the truth now. He's seen his son. And whatever you think you know about what Richard wants, you're wrong. I saw his face when he held Ethan for the first time. Fear replaced uncertainty in Veronica's eyes. You're lying. Richard wouldn't call him and ask. Better yet, look at your phone. I'm guessing he's been trying to reach you all morning. As if on cue, Veronica's phone began to buzz in her pocket. She pulled it out, her face paling further at the screen. That's him, isn't it? He's probably calling to fire you. Or maybe he's too much of a gentleman for that. Maybe he'll just ask for your resignation. Veronica's fingers tightened around her phone until her knuckles turned white. You've ruined everything. No, Veronica. You did that all by yourself. Anna moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm not here for revenge. I'm not even here to get Richard back. That chapter of my life is closed. But my son deserves to know his father, and Richard deserves to know his son. You had no right to take that from either of them. Veronica said nothing, her face a rigid mask of fury and fear. Anna left her standing there, still clutching her buzzing phone, and walked out of Horizon Technologies for what she hoped would be the last time. Outside, the autumn air felt cleaner somehow, as if confronting Veronica had cleared away a miasma that had been clinging to her since the divorce. Anna took a deep breath, feeling lighter than she had in months despite the complexity of her situation. Her phone chimed with a text message from Richard. Just spoke with my lawyer. Paperwork for the penthouse will be ready tomorrow. Moving. Company on standby at your convenience. Let me know what you need. Anna stared at the message, the reality of her changing circumstances finally sinking in. She was going home not to Richard, but to the space that had once been theirs, now to be hers and Ethan's alone. The thought was both comforting and unsettling. She texted back a simple acknowledgement, then called Melissa to check on Ethan. Her friend reported that the baby was fine, happily playing on a blanket on the floor. The normalcy of the moment, her son safe, her future suddenly more secure, brought unexpected tears to Anna's eyes. 2 days later, Anna stood in the foyer of the penthouse apartment, surrounded by the few belongings she had taken from her studio. The space was exactly as she remembered it. Open concept living area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Charles River. Gourmet kitchen with marble countertops, 3 bedrooms including the master suite with its ridiculous walk-in closet and spa bathroom. It felt surreal to be back, like stepping into a memory or a dream. Richard had kept his word about staying away, giving her the space to settle in without his presence complicating things further. The refrigerator had been stocked with groceries. The nursery, a room that had once been designated as a home office, outfitted with everything Ethan could possibly need. This is really happening. This is our home now, little one. Ethan gurgled in response, his tiny hand reaching out to grab at the sunlight streaming through the windows. Anna smiled, kissing the top of his head. Despite the strange circumstances, despite her lingering mistrust of Richard's sudden transformation, she couldn't deny the relief of having secure housing for her son. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Anna opened it to find a courier with an envelope from Gerald. Harrington. Inside was a formal job offer for a senior marketing position at Harrington Jewelers, with a salary that made her breath catch. The start date was in 2 weeks, with confirmation that Ethan would have a place in their on-site daycare. Anna sat, the letter on the kitchen counter, emotions warring within her. Part of her still resisted accepting so much from Richard, even indirectly. It felt too much like dependence, like returning to a life where her security was tied to his whims. But the practical part of her, the mother who had been ready to sell her wedding ring for baby formula, recognized the opportunity for what it was, a chance to rebuild on solid ground. Her phone rang, displaying Richard's number. After a moment's hesitation, she answered. "I see the courier found you. Did you read the offer?" "Yes, it's very generous. It's what you're worth. Gerald has wanted you on his team for years. He's ecstatic about the possibility." Anna sighed, moving to the window to gaze out at the city skyline. "Richard, I appreciate everything you're doing. The apartment, the job opportunity, but I need to understand why. A week ago, you were happily divorced and dating your assistant. Now you're turning your life upside down for a son you just met." The line was silent for a long moment before Richard spoke again, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "When I saw you in Gerald's office holding our son, it was like waking up from a year-long sleepwalk. I realized how much I'd lost, how completely I'd failed both of you. People don't change overnight. No, they don't. I'm still the same workaholic who put the company first for too long. I'm still learning how to prioritize what really matters. But seeing Ethan changed something fundamental, Anna. I can't explain it better than that." The sincerity in his voice was difficult to dismiss. Anna found herself wanting to believe him, despite everything. What about Veronica? Richard's sigh was heavy with regret. "She's been asked to leave Horizon. Her severance package is generous, but her career in tech is likely over, at least in Boston. What she did was unforgivable. And your relationship with her?" "Over the moment I learned what she'd done," he said firmly. "In truth, it was never real to begin with. A distraction, a convenient arrangement when I was at my lowest. I'm not proud of it." Anna absorbed this information, unsure how to feel about it. Veronica's deception had been monstrous, but Anna took no joy in another woman's downfall, no matter the circumstances. "I'm not asking for reconciliation, Anna," Richard continued when she remained silent. "I know too much has happened for that. But I am asking for a chance to be Ethan's father. To support both of you, not out of obligation, but because it's what I should have been doing all along." The raw honesty in his voice struck something deep within Anna. She looked at Ethan, peacefully playing on the floor, unaware of the life-altering conversations happening around him. He deserved a father who wanted to be present, who recognized the gift of his existence. "One step at a time," she said finally. "I'll take the job at Harrington's, and you can visit Ethan this weekend if you'd like." The relief in Richard's voice was palpable. "Thank you, Anna. I promise you won't regret this." After they hung up, Anna sat beside Ethan on the floor, watching as he discovered the joy of rolling from his back to his stomach. The simple milestone brought tears to her eyes, tears of gratitude that she would be able to provide for him, that he would have opportunities she had feared might be beyond reach just days ago. The wedding ring that had brought them to this moment was gone, transformed into financial security and an unexpected second chance. Not for her marriage, that chapter was closed, but for a different kind of family than she had imagined. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the penthouse floor, Anna found herself contemplating the strange turns life could take. A week ago, she had been counting pennies for formula. Now she sat in a luxury apartment with a high-paying job awaiting her and her son's father back in their lives. It wasn't the happily ever after she had once dreamed of, but perhaps it was something better, something real, built on truth rather than illusion. The road ahead would not be easy. Trust, once broken, could not be instantly repaired. But for the first time in months, Anna felt something beyond mere survival. She felt hope, fragile and tentative, but hope nonetheless. And for today, that was enough. What Anna couldn't know as she put Ethan down for his afternoon nap was that across town, Richard Chun sat in his hotel suite, staring at a photograph from their wedding day. In it, Anna laughed as she held up her hand, the diamond ring catching the light. The joy in her eyes, the love that had once existed between them, it hadn't all been an illusion. Richard set the photograph aside and opened his laptop, determined to prove that his transformation was more than temporary emotion. Horizon Technologies had consumed his life for too long, driving him to sacrifice what truly mattered on the altar of success. It was time to redefine what success meant. On his screen, he pulled up a document titled Horizon Family Initiative, a new corporate policy providing comprehensive support for employees with families. Paid parental leave, on-site childcare, flexible working arrangements. The program would cost millions to implement, but Richard no longer cared about the bottom line above all else. Some lessons came at too high a price. He had nearly lost the chance to know his son. He had lost Anna's trust and love. But perhaps, in the ruins of what had been destroyed, something new and better could grow. Not a reconciliation, he wasn't foolish enough to expect that, but a partnership of sorts. Co-parents raising their son with mutual respect, if not the love they had once shared. As Richard finalized the initiative that would transform his company's culture, he made a silent promise to the son he had only just met. Things would be different now. Some priorities, once recognized, could never again be forgotten. 2 weeks later, Anna stood before the full-length mirror in her bedroom, hardly recognizing the woman who looked back at her. Dressed in a tailored navy suit with a cream silk blouse, her hair styled in a sleek bob, she appeared every inch the successful marketing executive she had once been and was about to become again. Today marked her first day at Harrington Jewelers. The butterflies in her stomach weren't just from professional anxiety, but from the knowledge that she was stepping back into the world she'd left behind when her life had imploded. A world of corporate meetings, strategic planning, and creative campaigns so different from the desperate existence she'd been living just 3 weeks ago. "You can do this," she told her reflection, adjusting her mother's simple pearl earrings, one of the few pieces of jewelry she hadn't sold during the difficult months after Ethan's birth. "You haven't forgotten how." In the nursery, the baby monitor showed Ethan still sleeping peacefully. The overnight nanny, a kind grandmotherly woman named Dorothy, whom Richard had insisted on providing, would take him to the Harrington's daycare center later this morning. Anna had initially resisted the idea of a nanny, but the reality of early morning meetings and potential late nights had made her reconsider. Dorothy had immediately bonded with Ethan, and her references were impeccable. Anna checked her watch, a simple Timex that had replaced her once treasured Cartier, sold months ago to pay the electric bill. She had 20 minutes before the car service Richard had arranged would arrive to take her to Harrington's downtown headquarters. Just enough time for a final cup of coffee and to review her notes for the day's orientation meetings. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Richard. "Good luck today. Ethan and I have a park date after work, if that's still okay with you." Over the past 2 weeks, Richard had slowly integrated himself into their lives, always respectful of boundaries, never pushing for more than Anna was willing to give. He visited Ethan every other day, learning the basics of infant care with an earnestness that surprised her. The powerful CEO, who once couldn't be bothered to warm his own coffee, now expertly changed diapers and prepared bottles without complaint. "Still okay," Anna texted back. "He'll be at daycare until 4. The response was immediate. "I'll pick him up." "Dinner after the park, the 3 of us?" Anna hesitated. They had established a careful routine of co-parenting that kept clear lines between their past relationship and their current situation. Dinners together ventured into murky territory, too reminiscent of the family they were not. "Maybe another time," she replied finally. "First day jitters, want to keep it simple." "Of course, rain check." Richard's disappointment was evident, even in text, but he didn't push. Anna slipped her phone into her purse just as the intercom announced the arrival of her car. With one last look at the sleeping Ethan on the monitor, she headed out to face her new beginning. Harrington Jewelers' corporate offices occupied 3 floors of a historic building in Boston's Back Bay. The decor struck a balance between old-world luxury and contemporary elegance, much like the brand itself. As Anna was escorted through the reception area, she noticed the subtle differences from Horizon Technology's aggressively modern aesthetic. Here, tradition and innovation coexisted rather than competed. Gerald Harrington himself greeted her at the door to the marketing department, a distinguished man in his early 60s with silver hair and kind eyes behind designer glasses. "Anna, welcome to the team. We've been waiting for someone with your talent for years." His warmth seemed genuine, with no hint that her position had been secured through Richard's influence rather than her own merit. As he introduced her to the marketing team, a diverse group of professionals who received her with evident enthusiasm, Anna felt her anxiety begin to fade. "Your reputation precedes you," said Sofia Martinez, the creative director who would be Anna's immediate colleague. "Your campaign for Horizon's quantum computing initiative was brilliant. We've been hoping to bring that kind of fresh perspective to the jewelry industry." By midday, Anna had been thoroughly briefed on her responsibilities, the company's current marketing strategies, and the challenges facing luxury retailers in an increasingly digital marketplace. The work was fascinating, complex enough to engage her fully without overwhelming her as she eased back into professional life. During the lunch break, she slipped away to the daycare center on the ground floor to check on Ethan. She found him contentedly playing with colorful blocks under Dorothy's watchful eye, surrounded by the children of other Harrington employees. The facility was bright, clean, and staffed by professionals who clearly adored their tiny charges. "He's settling in beautifully," Dorothy assured her. "Not a single tear when we arrived." Relief washed over Anna. "Thank you, Dorothy. I was worried it might be too much change all at once." "Babies are more adaptable than we give them credit for," the older woman said wisely. "And this one has his mother's resilience." The simple compliment brought unexpected tears to Anna's eyes. Resilience had been her only option when her world collapsed, but hearing it acknowledged as a strength rather than a necessity touched something deep within her. The afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and introductions. By 5 o'clock, Anna had a clear understanding of her role and the exciting challenges it would present. As she gathered her things to leave, Gerald stopped by her office. "How was your first day?" "Honestly, better than I expected. The team is impressive, and I'm excited about the spring campaign concepts." Gerald smiled, pleased by her enthusiasm. "I knew you'd be a perfect fit. I told Richard as much years ago when he first introduced us." At the mention of Richard, Anna tensed slightly. "Mr. Harrington, Gerald, please." "Gerald, I want to be clear about something. I appreciate the opportunity, but I need to know that I'm here because of my qualifications, not because of my connection to Richard." The older man's expression grew serious. "Anna, I've been trying to recruit you since that charity gala in 2019. Richard actually discouraged it at the time. He didn't want to lose you to a competitor." He smiled wryly. When he called about this position, I assumed he was finally relenting. It wasn't until later that I learned about your changed circumstances. The revelation that Richard had once stood in the way of her career advancement was both surprising and somehow perfectly in character. Even when they were happily married, he had wanted to keep her within his orbit. So this is strictly professional? Absolutely. Though I won't pretend I'm not aware of your personal situation. Richard and I have been friends for many years. He hesitated, then added, he's changed, you know. Since he found out about Ethan. Anna sighed, unsure how to respond to such a personal observation from her new employer. We're finding our way forward. That's all any of us can do, one day at a time. As Anna left the building, she found herself reflecting on how quickly life could transform. 3 weeks ago, she had been standing in a tiny bathroom counting out formula scoops, terrified of running out before her next paycheck. Now she walked out of a prestigious company as a senior executive, her son safely cared for, her future secure in ways she had stopped believing possible. The hired car was waiting to take her home, but Anna impulsively dismissed it. I think I'll walk for a bit, clear my head. The October evening was crisp but pleasant, the city coming alive with lights as dusk settled over Boston. Anna walked. Without a particular destination, simply enjoying the freedom of movement, the luxury of time to herself, rare commodities for a single mother living on the edge of poverty. Her phone buzzed with a photo from Richard. Ethan bundled in a tiny jacket at the public garden, his expression serious as he contemplated a duck on the pond. The simple image made her smile despite herself. Whatever Richard's flaws, his devotion to their son seemed genuine. She texted back a heart emoji safer than words, which might be misinterpreted, and continued her walk. Eventually, she found herself near the waterfront, drawn to the harbor that had always brought her peace. The gentle lapping of waves against the docks, the distant call of seagulls, the salty tang in the air, it grounded her in a way nothing else could. Anna sat on a bench overlooking the water, watching as boats returned to the marina for the evening. The juxtaposition of her current reality with where she had been just weeks ago was almost dizzying. The wedding ring that had brought her to Harrington Jewelers out of desperation had somehow opened a door to stability, to a future for Ethan that she hadn't dared hope for during those dark months. But at what cost? Anna wasn't naive enough to believe that Richard's transformation came without strings, spoken or unspoken. He might not be pushing for reconciliation now, but his attentiveness, his generosity, his constant presence in their lives, it all suggested a man who hadn't entirely let go of what they once had. And if she were honest with herself, there were moments when she caught glimpses of the Richard she had fallen in love with, in his genuine delight at Ethan's smallest achievements, in his thoughtful texts checking if she needed anything, in the respect he showed for her boundaries, even when it clearly pained him. But trust, once shattered, was not easily rebuilt. The memory of those months alone, struggling to survive while pregnant, then with a newborn, it couldn't simply be erased by a few weeks of considerate behavior. Lost in thought, Anna didn't notice the figure approaching until a familiar voice spoke her name. "I thought that was you." What a lovely surprise. Anna stood, genuinely pleased to see the older woman despite the complicated history. Catherine had always been kind to her, had welcomed her into the family without reservation. "Mrs. Chun, it's wonderful to see you." "Please, it's still Catherine to you, regardless of legal documents. May I join you?" They sat together on the bench, the harbor spread before them. Catherine had always shared Anna's appreciation for the water, having grown up in a coastal town in China before immigrating to America as a young bride. "Richard told me about Ethan, my grandson." Her voice caught slightly on the word. "He showed me pictures, but I haven't wanted to intrude." Anna felt a pang of guilt. In the whirlwind of recent events, she hadn't considered Catherine's position, a grandmother, who had only just learned of her grandson's existence. "I'm sorry you found out this way. The situation was complicated. You don't need to explain. Richard told me everything, including his own failings and how Veronica kept him from knowing about Ethan. She shook her head, disappointment evident in her expression. I raised him to be more discerning, to verify important matters himself, rather than delegating them, especially where family is concerned. The gentle criticism of her son surprised Anna. Catherine had always been Richard's staunchest defender. He's trying to make amends, as well he should. But that's not why I approached you, dear. I wanted to ask if I might meet my grandson. Not to overstep, but of course you can meet him. Catherine, you've done nothing wrong. You're Ethan's grandmother. He should know you. Relief and joy brightened Catherine's elegant features. Thank you, Anna. That means more than I can express. She hesitated, then added, and how are you? Really? Richard said you've started at Harrington's. Today was my first day. It went well. Everything is changing so quickly. Sometimes I can hardly believe where I was just a few weeks ago. Catherine nodded thoughtfully. Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? Sometimes terribly, sometimes wonderfully. She gazed out at the harbor, her expression distant. Did Richard ever tell you how his father and I met? Anna shook her head. Richard had rarely spoken of his late father, who had died before she met him. Only that you met in college. That's the simplified version. The truth is more complicated. I was working as a waitress in a small restaurant near campus. James Richard's father was a regular customer. Harvard Business School, brilliant, from a wealthy family. Far above my station, as they used to say. Anna listened, intrigued by this glimpse into the family history Richard had always kept vague. One night, I accidentally spilled hot tea on him. I was mortified, certain I would be fired. Instead of complaining, James simply asked for my phone number. Her eyes twinkled at the memory. I thought he wanted it to send me a cleaning bill. Instead, he called to ask me to dinner. That's lovely. It wasn't all lovely. His family opposed our marriage. They cut him off financially when he refused to end our relationship. We struggled for years while he built his first business from nothing. She paused, her gaze returning to Anna. When that business failed, I sold my mother's jade bracelet, a family heirloom, to finance his second attempt. That one succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. The parallel to Anna's own situation, selling her wedding ring out of desperation, wasn't lost on her. Why are you telling me this? Because sometimes the things we are forced to give up lead us to unexpected blessings. And because I want you to know that I understand something of what you've experienced. The struggle, the sacrifice for your child. Richard comes from a line of strong women who did what was necessary when times were difficult. Anna felt tears prickling behind her eyes. I haven't felt very strong most days, just desperate. Desperation and strength often walk hand in hand. What matters is that you kept going, that you did whatever was needed for your son. That is strength, Anna. Never doubt it. They sat in companionable silence for a few minutes, watching as the harbor lights began to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Finally, Catherine spoke again, her voice tentative. May I ask you something personal? Anna nodded, suspecting what was coming. Do you think you could ever forgive my son? Not necessarily reconcile, but truly forgive him for his failings? The question hit at the heart of Anna's internal struggle. I don't know. Some days I think I already have. Other days, when I remember how alone I felt. She shook her head. It's complicated. The most worthwhile things usually are, Catherine replied. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, nor does it obligate you to restore what was broken. It simply means releasing the burden of anger for your sake, not his. The wisdom in those words resonated deeply with Anna. She had been carrying the weight of her anger, her sense of betrayal, through every interaction with Richard. Even as she accepted his help, part of her held onto the hurt like a shield. I'll think about that, she promised. Catherine smiled, patting her hand before standing. "That's all anyone can ask. Now I should let you get home to my grandson. Perhaps Sunday brunch this weekend? I make excellent dim sum." Anna agreed readily, genuinely looking forward to reuniting Ethan with the grandmother he didn't yet know. As they parted ways, Catherine's story about the jade bracelet lingered in Anna's mind, a reminder that sacrifice sometimes led to unexpected rewards. When Anna arrived home, she found Richard and Ethan already there, the baby freshly bathed and dressed in pajamas, happily babbling in his father's arms. "Hope you don't mind," Richard said, looking uncertain for once. "He was getting tired at the park, so I thought it best to bring him home instead of extending our outing." "It's fine," Anna assured him, dropping her work bag and reaching for her son. Ethan came to her willingly, his tiny hands patting her face in recognition. The simple gesture filled her with warmth, a reminder of what truly mattered beyond career advancement and financial security. "How was your first day?" Richard asked, maintaining a respectful distance as Anna settled on the sofa with Ethan. "Good. Challenging in the right ways," she replied. "Gerald has ambitious plans for the spring campaign launch." Richard smiled, genuine pleasure in his expression. "He's lucky to have you. You were always the most creative strategist at Horizon." The compliment took Anna by surprise. During their marriage, Richard had rarely acknowledged her professional capabilities, taking her support of his career for granted while treating her own as secondary. "Thank you," she said simply. An awkward silence fell between them, filled only by Ethan's contented babbling. Richard cleared his throat. "I should go. Let you two have your evening." As he gathered his coat, Anna found herself remembering Catherine's words about forgiveness, about releasing the burden of anger. "I ran into your mother at the harbor," she said suddenly. Richard turned, surprise evident on his face. "My mother?" "She didn't mention she was planning to be in that area." "It was coincidence," Anna explained. "She asked about meeting Ethan. I invited her for brunch this Sunday." "She'd be thrilled," Richard said, his expression softening. "She's been asking daily, but didn't want to pressure you." "She told me about your father," Anna continued. "About selling her jade bracelet to finance his business." Understanding dawned in Richard's eyes. "After you lost everything to help him," he said quietly. "History repeats itself in our family." "It seems." "Not exactly," Anna corrected. "I didn't sell my ring to help you. I sold it to feed our son a son you didn't know existed because you trusted the wrong person." Richard flinched slightly at the reminder of his failure. "I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make that right." Anna studied him, seeing beyond the confident CEO exterior to the man struggling to redefine himself, to become the father Ethan deserved. Despite everything, she found herself wanting him to succeed, not for her sake, but for their sons. "Stay for dinner," she said impulsively. "Nothing fancy, just takeout. But it would be nice for Ethan to have both of us here." The invitation clearly caught Richard off guard. "Are you sure?" Anna nodded, making a conscious choice to take one small step forward. One meal, no pressure, no expectations. Just three people sharing food and conversation. The smile that spread across Richard's face reminded Anna of the man she had fallen in love with years ago, before success and ambition had hardened him, before betrayal and abandonment had come between them. "I'd like that," he said simply. As they moved to the kitchen to sort through takeout menus, Ethan still cradled in Anna's arms, she realized that forgiveness might not be an event, but a process, a series of small choices to let go of hurt, to allow for the possibility of something new to grow from the ashes of what had been destroyed. Not reconciliation, that bridge had been thoroughly burned, but perhaps a different kind of connection. A family redefined by choice rather than obligation or romantic love. For Ethan's sake, and perhaps for her own, Anna was willing to explore that possibility, one careful step at a time. What neither Anna nor Richard could know as they sat down to their first meal together since the divorce was that this tentative peace, this fragile new beginning, would soon be tested in ways they couldn't imagine. The path forward would not be smooth, but the foundation they were building, brick by careful brick, might just be strong enough to weather the storms that lay ahead. 6 weeks later, the early December snow fell in gentle flakes outside the windows of Harrington Jewelers, transforming Boston into a winter wonderland. Inside, Anna stood before an assembled team of executives, confidently presenting her marketing strategy for the company's Valentine's Day collection. Her voice was steady, her gestures precise as she walked them through the campaign that would position Harrington's at the forefront of the luxury jewelry market. By focusing on legacy rather than fleeting romance, we differentiate ourselves from competitors who rely on cliched imagery, Anna explained, clicking to a slide showing the campaign's centerpiece, a multi-generational family portrait featuring a grandmother, mother, and daughter, each wearing pieces from the collection. Our tagline, "Love Endures," speaks to the permanence of our pieces and the relationships they commemorate. Gerald Harrington nodded appreciatively from his seat at the head of the conference table. Brilliant approach, Anna. The market research supports your direction? Completely, Anna confirmed, bringing up the relevant data. Our target demographic increasingly values heritage and longevity over temporary luxury. They're looking for investments that carry meaning beyond the moment of purchase. As the presentation concluded to enthusiastic applause, Anna felt a surge of satisfaction unlike anything she'd experienced in months. The approval of her colleagues, the confidence of having created something meaningful, the knowledge that she was excelling in her own right, it was profoundly validating after so many months of struggle and uncertainty. Congratulations, Sophia Martinez said as the room began to clear. Gerald hasn't looked that impressed since we landed the Sutton account last year. You've brought exactly the fresh perspective we needed. Anna smiled, gathering her materials. Thank you. It feels good to be back in the game. Her phone vibrated. With a text from Dorothy, Ethan has a slight fever. Pediatrician says it's just a cold, but thought you should know. Maternal concern immediately overshadowed professional triumph. Anna quickly packed her bag, making apologetic excuses to colleagues as she headed for the elevator. The ease with which she transitioned from marketing executive to worried mother no longer felt like the jarring disconnect it had in the early weeks. She was learning to integrate the different facets of her life, career woman, single mother, co-parent into a cohesive whole. In the penthouse, she found Dorothy administering infant fever reducer to a fussy Ethan. His cheeks were flushed, his normally bright eyes glassy with discomfort. Dr. Wilson says it's nothing serious, Dorothy reassured her. Just a common cold. That's going around the daycare. He should be fine in a few days with rest and plenty of fluids. Anna lifted her son into her arms, his little body radiating unusual heat. Hey buddy, she murmured, pressing a kiss to his forehead. Not feeling so great, huh? Ethan whimpered in response, burying his face against her neck. The complete trust in the gesture, the way he instinctively sought comfort from her embrace, filled Anna with a fierce protective love that dwarfed even her most significant professional accomplishments. I'll stay home with him tomorrow, she decided, already mentally rearranging her schedule. The campaign presentation was the big hurdle. Everything else can wait. Dorothy nodded approvingly. I'm happy to come by anyway if you need an extra pair of hands. Thank you, Anna said sincerely. Let's see how he is in the morning. After the nanny departed, Anna settled into the nursery's rocking chair with Ethan cradled against her chest. The room had been transformed from Richard's former home office into a peaceful haven of soft colors and gentle lighting. A hand-painted mural of Boston's public garden decorated one wall, a gift from Catherine, who had revealed an unexpected artistic talent. As she rocked her son, Anna reflected on the whirlwind of the past 2 months. The desperate woman who had walked into Harrington Jewelers to sell her wedding ring seemed like a different person, entirely someone from a past life or a half-forgotten dream. Now she had financial security, a flourishing career, a beautiful home, and a support system that included not only friends like Melissa, but also Catherine Chin's grandmotherly presence and, surprisingly, Richard's steadfast co-parenting. Phone buzzed with Richard's nightly check-in. Just finished at the office. How are my favorite people? Anna hesitated before typing back. Ethan has a cold, fever, congestion. Doctor says it's minor, but I'm staying home with him tomorrow. Richard's response was immediate. On my way. Need me to bring anything? The offer was typical of his approach these days, present without being intrusive, helpful without taking over. Over the past weeks, he had proven himself to be not just a financially supportive father, but an emotionally invested one, showing up consistently for doctor's appointments, middle-of-the-night feedings, and everyday moments in between. We're okay, Anna replied. But you're welcome to come by if you want. It still felt strange sometimes, this new dynamic between them. Not married, not romantically involved, yet bound by something deeper than a legal agreement or shared history. Co-parents by choice rather than by court order, finding their way toward a relationship built on mutual respect and their shared love for Ethan. The tentative Sunday dinner had evolved into a regular tradition, sometimes at the penthouse, occasionally at Catherine's elegant home in Beacon Hill, once even at Richard's new apartment, a modest 3-bedroom that bore little resemblance to the flashy bachelor pad Anna had half expected. They weren't a conventional family, but they were something authentic and increasingly comfortable. 30 minutes later, Richard arrived with a bag from the pharmacy and containers of soup from Anna's favorite restaurant. He had changed from his business suit into casual clothes, jeans, and a simple sweater that made him look more like the graduate student she had first fallen for than the polished CEO he had become. "How is he?" Richard asked. His voice hushed as he entered the nursery where Anna still rocked their sleeping son. "Finally dozed off," she whispered. "The fever's down a little." Richard approached quietly, crouching beside the rocking chair, to gently touch Ethan's flushed cheek. Poor little guy. The tenderness in his expression, the genuine concern in his eyes, it was a side of Richard that Anna was still getting used to seeing. "The soup smells amazing," she said carefully, standing with Ethan in her arms. "Let me put him down and we can eat." They moved with the synchronized caution of parents navigating a sleeping baby's transfer to the crib. Richard hovered nearby, ready to assist but not interfering, as Anna gently settled Ethan onto the mattress. They both held their breath as the baby stirred briefly, then relaxed back into sleep. In the kitchen, Richard unpacked the food while Anna washed her hands and checked the baby monitor. The domestic scene was reminiscent of their married life, yet fundamentally different, underlaid, now with careful boundaries and consciously constructed respect, rather than the unexamined assumptions of romantic partnership. "I heard your presentation was a huge success," Richard commented as they sat at the kitchen island with their soup. "Gerald called me right after. He's practically giddy about the campaign direction." Anna looked up in surprise. "He called you about my work?" Richard seemed to realize his misstep. "Not to check up on you or anything like that. We were already scheduled to discuss some investment opportunities. He just happened to mention it." "It's fine," Anna assured him, realizing she wasn't actually bothered. "I'm proud of the campaign. It feels good to be using my skills again, making a real contribution." "You always were the most talented marketer I knew," Richard said, his tone sincere. "I didn't appreciate that enough when we were married. I took your abilities for granted." The frank acknowledgement of his past shortcomings no longer surprised Anna. Over these weeks of cautious rebuilding, Richard had shown a capacity for self-reflection that the ambitious, driven man she had married had never demonstrated. "Thank you," she said simply. Then, Changing the subject, "How's the family initiative going at Horizon?" Richard's expression brightened. "Better than expected. We've already seen a 15% reduction in turnover among employees with young children." The board was skeptical at first, but the numbers are convincing them. Anna nodded, genuinely pleased by his enthusiasm. The Horizon Family Initiative had been Richard's first concrete step toward Redemption, a comprehensive program supporting working parents. With flexible schedules, extended leave options, and quality on-site childcare. It wouldn't undo his past failures, but it represented a meaningful commitment to change, not just in his personal life, but in the corporate culture he had created. "I'm glad," she said. "It will make a real difference for a lot of families." They finished their meal in comfortable conversation, discussing Ethan's developmental milestones, Catherine's plans for a family Christmas celebration, and the latest industry news. It felt almost normal, this co-parenting partnership they were building day by day, interaction by interaction. As Richard prepared to leave, Anna found herself studying him, the man she had loved, lost, and now was coming to know in an entirely new way. He was still driven, still brilliant, still capable of the laser focus that had built Horizon Technologies into an industry leader. But there was a new dimension to him, a depth that came from confronting his own flaws and choosing to grow beyond them. "Will you be okay with him tomorrow?" Richard asked, gesturing toward the nursery. "I can reschedule my meetings if you need backup." "We'll be fine," Anna assured him. "Dorothy's coming by in the afternoon if I need a break." Richard nodded, retrieving his coat from the hall closet. "Call me if anything changes, or if you just want company." He hesitated at the door. "I meant to tell you earlier, the board approved my reduced schedule starting next month. 3 days in the office, 2 working remotely, more time for Ethan." The announcement confirmed what Anna had observed over recent weeks. Richard was actively reorganizing his life to prioritize fatherhood, making changes that would have been unthinkable during their marriage when the company had consumed every waking moment. "He'll love that," she said sincerely. "You're good with him, Richard." The simple compliment seemed to touch him deeply. "I'm trying to be," he replied, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "I don't want to miss any more than I already have." After he left, Anna checked on Ethan once more, before settling onto the living room sofa with her laptop to review the day's presentation analytics. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in peaceful white. The contrast with her life just 2 months ago, sitting in a leaking apartment, counting out the last scoops of formula, was stark enough to feel almost surreal. Her gaze fell on the spot where her wedding ring had once rested on her finger. The tan line had long since faded, the physical reminder of her marriage erased by time. Yet the ring's absence had set in motion everything that followed: the desperate trip to Harrington's, the unexpected encounter with Richard, the revelation about Ethan, and this new life they were carefully constructing from the ruins of the old. Sometimes sacrifice led to unexpected blessings, Catherine had said. The jade bracelet sold to finance a new beginning. The wedding ring surrendered for a child's survival. Different circumstances, different generations, but a similar lesson. Sometimes letting go was the first step toward receiving something more valuable. Anna was pulled from her reflections by a sound from the baby monitor, Ethan stirring restlessly in his crib. She set aside her laptop and went to him, finding his fever slightly elevated again. After administering another dose of medicine, she lifted him into her arms, his small body hot against her chest. "It's okay, sweetheart," she murmured, walking the length of the nursery with gentle bouncing steps. "Mama's here." Ethan's cries gradually subsided as the medicine took effect, but he remained fussy, unwilling to be put back in his crib. Anna resigned herself to a long night, carrying him to her bedroom where she propped herself against the headboard with pillows Ethan draped across her chest. In the quiet darkness, her son's breathing gradually steadied into sleep while Anna remained wakeful, one hand resting protectively on his back. These were the moments that defined motherhood for her. Not the milestones or photo opportunities, but the midnight vigils, the unwavering presence when her child needed comfort. It struck her that perhaps this was the true meaning of love, not the grand gestures or passionate declarations, but the consistent showing up, the choice to be present through discomfort and difficulty, the willingness to put another's needs before your own, not out of obligation, but out of a deep, abiding commitment to their well-being. Anna had sold her wedding ring out of desperation, a last resort attempt to provide for her child when all other options had been exhausted. That act of sacrifice, painful as it had been, had opened the door to unexpected reconciliation, not of her marriage but of the broken family connections that mattered more in the long run. By morning, Ethan's fever had broken. Anna woke too. Find him playing with her hair, his eyes clearer, his cheeks less flushed. The worst of the cold had passed, though a stuffy nose and occasional cough remained. After a quick text update to Richard, who responded with palpable relief, Anna settled into a day of quiet activities with her son, reading books, playing simple games, and enjoying the rare luxury of unstructured time together. Dorothy arrived in the afternoon as promised, giving Anna a chance to catch up on work emails and conference calls while Ethan napped. As evening approached, Anna received an unexpected call from Gerald Harrington. I'm still so angry sometimes. When I look at Ethan and think about everything Richard missed, his first smile, his first laugh, those sleepless nights when I had no one to help me. I feel like I lost a year of my life to fear and desperation. While he was building his empire with another woman. Catherine nodded, her expression understanding. Anger is natural, even necessary sometimes. But carrying it indefinitely becomes a burden that weighs you down more than it punishes him. I know, my therapist says the same thing. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two different things. Of course they are. Catherine reached into her purse and withdrew a small velvet pouch. This belonged to my mother-in-law, James's mother, the woman who opposed our marriage so fiercely. She never spoke to me directly for the first 5 years we were married. Anna accepted the pouch, curious. Inside was a delicate gold locket, tarnished, with age but still beautiful. She gave this to me the day before she died. Catherine's voice was soft with memory. Inside is a photo of James as a baby. She told me that despite everything, despite her anger and disappointment, she had come to understand that love sometimes requires us to let go of our expectations and embrace what is, rather than what we thought should be. Anna opened the locket to reveal a tiny sepia photograph of an infant who looked remarkably like Ethan. The resemblance was so strong it took her breath away. He looks just like Ethan. The Chun genes are strong. Catherine smiled. James's mother said something else. That day, she said that forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing what happened. It's about refusing to let the past dictate the future. Anna closed the locket, feeling its weight in her palm. What happened to her after she gave you this? She lived 3 more years. We became close during that time. Not the relationship I had dreamed of, but something genuine. She got to know her grandchildren, to see that I wasn't the fortune hunter she had feared. When she died, she left me her entire jewelry collection. Not to James, to me. The story resonated more deeply than Anna expected. Here was a woman who had overcome family opposition, financial hardship, and years of rejection to build something meaningful. You think I should forgive Richard. I think you should do whatever brings you peace. But I also think that Ethan deserves to grow up without the shadow of his parents' anger hanging over him. Children absorb more than we realize. Anna knew Catherine was right. She had already noticed how Ethan seemed more relaxed, more content, since Richard had become part of their routine. The baby didn't understand the complicated history between his parents, only that both of them loved him. Can I keep this? The locket? Anna asked, surprising herself with the request. Catherine's smile was radiant. I was hoping you would ask. It belongs with Ethan now, with the next generation. They sat quietly for a few more minutes, watching as the last light faded from the sky. Finally, Anna spoke again. Would you like to come for dinner tomorrow night, to meet Ethan properly? Catherine's eyes filled with tears. I would love nothing more. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, and maybe some stories about Richard as a child. I think it's time Ethan and I learned more about his family history. As they parted ways, Anna felt lighter somehow. The conversation with Catherine had provided perspective she hadn't realized she needed. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or even fully trusting again. It meant choosing not to let past wounds poison the future they were all trying to build. The next evening, Anna prepared dinner with unusual care. She had invited Richard as well, deciding that Ethan's first meeting with his grandmother should include both parents. The apartment felt different with the 3 generations gathered around the dining table. Catherine was enchanted with Ethan, who seemed equally fascinated by his grandmother's gentle voice and animated expressions. Richard watched his mother with their son, his own expression soft with emotion. This is what I robbed him of, Richard said quietly to Anna as they cleared dishes while Catherine played with Ethan on the living room floor. These moments, this connection, I can never get back the time I lost. No, you can't, but you can make sure not to lose any more time. Anna handed him a plate to dry. Richard, I've been thinking about what you said, about wanting to be part of Ethan's life. He paused in his drying, giving her his full attention. I want to try co-parenting, really try. Not just weekend visits or scheduled activities, but genuine partnership in raising him. The relief on Richard's face was palpable. Anna, I want that. Too, more than anything, but I need conditions. Boundaries that we both respect. Richard nodded immediately. Whatever you need. First, this isn't about us getting back together. We're doing this for Ethan, and only for Ethan. Any romantic feelings or expectations need to be set aside completely. Understood? Second, if you ever lie to me again about anything involving Ethan, or if you put work ahead of him when he needs you, this arrangement ends immediately. I won't let him grow up feeling like he's not your priority. Richard's expression grew serious. I swear to you, Anna, on everything I hold dear, that will never happen again. And third, we need family counseling. Both of us together to learn how to communicate better and handle conflicts without putting Ethan in the middle. Richard agreed without hesitation. Whatever it takes to make this work. From the living room came the sound of Catherine's delighted laughter as Ethan successfully stacked 2 blocks before knocking them down with enthusiastic clapping. Both parents turned to watch, their son's joy infectious despite the weight of their conversation. Maybe we can do this, Anna said, more to herself than to Richard. Maybe we can give him the family he deserves, even if it looks different than we once imagined. Richard moved closer, not to embrace her but to stand united as they watched their son explore his world with fearless curiosity. We can do this. We will do this. And for the first time since that devastating day when she had learned about his betrayal, Anna allowed herself to believe that might actually be true. I know you're home with your little one, he began apologetically, but something's come up that I thought you should know about immediately. What is it? Anna asked, instantly alert to the unusual tension in her boss's voice. Veronica. Patterson has just been hired as marketing director at Looks Brilliant, our main competitor in the under 40 demographic. Gerald's concern was evident. She's already making noise about a Valentine's campaign that sounds remarkably similar to the concept you presented yesterday. Anna's stomach dropped. That's not possible. The only people who've seen the full presentation are Harrington executives. And Richard, Gerald pointed out gently. You mentioned you discussed the campaign with him. Not in detail, Anna. protested, though doubt crept in. Had she shared more than she realized during their evening conversations? And Richard would never leak proprietary information, especially not to Veronica. They haven't spoken since he discovered her deception about Ethan. I believe you, Gerald assured her. But the similarities are concerning. Our legal team is looking into it, but I wanted to give you a heads up. We may need to pivot quickly if they beat us to market with a similar concept. After hanging up, Anna paced the living room, mind racing. The idea that Veronica might have somehow accessed her campaign concept was disturbing on multiple levels, professionally threatening, personally invasive, and potentially damaging to the fragile trust she and Richard had been rebuilding. When Richard arrived for their now routine evening check-in, bringing dinner and a stuffed bear for Ethan, Anna was still wrestling with how to approach the subject. She waited until they had eaten and Ethan was settled in his playpen before broaching the topic. Gerald called me today about something concerning, she began carefully. Veronica has taken a position at Looks Brilliant. Apparently, she's developing a Valentine's campaign that bears a striking resemblance to mine. Richard's expression darkened. That's not possible. I haven't spoken to Veronica since I confronted her about lying about Ethan. I didn't think. You had, Anna said, watching his reaction closely. But the coincidence is troubling. I've been careful not to discuss specifics outside of Harrington's. Understanding dawned in Richard's eyes. You're wondering if I inadvertently leaked information to her. The thought crossed my mind, Anna admitted. Not intentionally, but perhaps in passing. Richard's jaw tightened, hurt flashing across his features before he controlled it. I understand why you'd think that, given our history. But Anna, I haven't had any contact with Veronica, direct or indirect, since that day. And I would never compromise your work, even unintentionally. The sincerity in his voice was convincing, but doubt had been planted. After everything they'd been through, trust remained their most fragile currency. Then how would she know about my campaign? Anna pressed. Richard considered the question seriously. When did you begin developing the concept? About 3 weeks ago, Anna replied. The initial brainstorming happened in my office with Sophia and the creative team. And where were your notes kept, your drafts? Anna thought back to her process. On my laptop primarily. And there were some physical mock-ups in my office. A troubling possibility occurred to her. You don't think corporate espionage isn't as rare as you might think, Richard said grimly. Especially in competitive luxury markets. Has anyone new started at Harrington's recently? Anyone with unusual access to the marketing department? Anna's mind immediately went to the intern who had joined their team 2 weeks ago, a quiet young woman who often worked late and had expressed particular interest in the Valentine's campaign. There's a new intern, Megan. She's been eager to help with the project. Richard pulled out his phone. What's her last name? Williams, I think. Why? After a few moments of searching, Richard turned his screen toward Anna, showing a social media photo of the intern standing beside Veronica at what appeared to be a charity event. Megan Williams. Veronica's cousin, according to the caption. The revelation hit Anna like a physical blow. She planted a spy in our department. The violation felt personal, a reminder of just how manipulative Veronica could be. It would be consistent with her methods, Richard agreed, his expression grim. She's always been ruthlessly efficient. Anna stood, anger displacing her earlier uncertainty. I need to call Gerald immediately. If Megan has been feeding information to Veronica, we need to contain the damage and develop a new strategy. As she reached for her phone, Richard caught her hand. Wait, this might be an opportunity rather than a setback. Anna looked at him questioningly. What if, Richard suggested, eyes gleaming with the strategic brilliance that had built his company, instead of scrapping your campaign, you feed Megan slightly modified information, a version of your concept, with a critical flaw that only industry insiders would recognize. Understanding dawned. So when Lux launches their campaign, they'll expose themselves as having stolen your intellectual property, while simultaneously undermining their own credibility in the market. Richard finished. It's a counterintelligence approach. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity, turning Veronica's underhanded tactics against her without resorting to the same ethical compromises. It would require careful execution, but the potential rewards, both professionally and personally, were significant. It could work, Anna acknowledged, already envisioning how to implement the plan. But I'll need Gerald's approval, and we'll have to be subtle about the disinformation. I can help with that, Richard offered. Corporate security is unfortunately something I've had to become expert in over the years. As they sat together at the kitchen island, strategizing over how to outmaneuver Veronica's corporate espionage attempt, Anna was struck by the irony of the situation. The woman who had nearly destroyed their family through deception was now inadvertently bringing them closer together through a shared challenge that required mutual trust and collaboration. "Thank you," Anna said when they had outlined their approach, "for believing in me enough to help protect my work." Richard's expression softened. "Always. Whatever happens between us personally, I will always respect your talent and support your success." The simple declaration, free from the possessive undertones that had characterized his attitude during their marriage, represented perhaps the most significant evolution in their relationship. He was seeing her clearly now as a professional, in her own right, not an extension of himself or his ambitions. "I believe you," Anna said, realizing as she spoke that it was true. The trust that had been shattered was slowly, piece by piece, being rebuilt not into what it had been before, but into something potentially stronger, tempered by experience and conscious choice rather than blind faith. As the evening drew to a close, with Ethan sleeping peacefully after his bout with fever and a counter-strategy in place to protect Anna's work, she found herself reflecting again on the strange journey that had brought them to this point. From the desperate decision to sell her wedding ring to this moment of aligned purpose and mutual respect, a path neither of them could have anticipated. "One day at a time," Catherine had advised weeks ago, looking at Richard as he gently checked on Ethan before leaving. Anna thought perhaps that wisdom had been exactly right. Each small choice, each moment of honesty, each instance of showing up for each other and for their son, these were the building blocks of whatever future awaited them. Not the happily ever after of fairy tales, but something more valuable. A hard-won understanding that true connection wasn't built on grand gestures or perfect circumstances, but on the willingness to grow, to forgive, and to choose each other anew each day. As Anna closed the door behind Richard, she felt a sense of peace that had been absent for so long. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, corporate intrigue, childhood illnesses, the complex dance of co-parenting, she was no longer facing them alone, and that made all the difference. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.